Hi everyone, this is Amani and River with the Regeneration series, and we are super excited. We're actually here in Texas at this beautiful wine tasting room, one of these places that we've been doing a land visit. We're actually going to walk the land in a minute after this broadcast to see what's possible in building with hemp. And we've been talking, River and I, since we met almost a year ago about building out community. And one of the people that he's been talking about all along was Michael Rice and Xana with Z-Mark Design, who are on the other side of the world, what they've been doing with creating beauty and bringing that into the communities, the villages that we're building out. So we're so excited I'm so excited to finally meet both of you. Been hearing so much about you, and just to welcome you onto our podcast and explore this conversation a little deeper.
Wonderful. We're delighted to be with you guys, and I think we have so many zones and areas of interlap and mutual interest and passion that we're delighted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.
So you guys are there in Austria, correct?
Yeah.
Just to give people
we are now very famous, actually. Everybody is speaking in the world about Austria, actually.
So until a couple of years ago, Austria's beautiful mountains, nice place. How are you doing? But now it's oh my God, are you guys okay?
So we are okay. We have beautiful environment, and everything is exactly as we wish to be. So it's nothing dramatic here.
Nothing dramatic. All is good. So we wish to focus on creativity and that desire to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we want to dive into, this creative process. I know both of you and River as designers, one of the things that has become really clear to me is that as we build these structures out, and we're building community from the inside out, but as we're doing that, we want to create it so that it's something that really naturally, centropically builds community, because it brings people together.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see you guys. It's been long overdue that we get to connect again. I think we connected last year, earlier in the year, maybe.
I think so.
Was the last time. And, I think just what we've been doing with community, and a lot of people now, as you know, are thinking about community, thinking about like, how can we get out of the present system of things into more regenerative, more community-centric kind of living in nature. But what it seems often is that a lot of things get missed in that kind of prepper type of escape the system mentality. It's like kind of how we're going to sustain ourselves with food, all these kind of elements. And what I found was something that's not really been talked about is the beauty of architecture, and how architecture can create so many opportunities for people to come together in organic ways to stimulate people through this idea of beautification of our spaces. And I just kept saying to Amani, we really need to get Michael and Xana on to talk about this, because you guys have been focusing on this for long before the pandemic came around.
For sure.
Your background as a bioarchitect, maybe you can talk just briefly a little bit about your background as well, and what kind of led you to this conclusion, how relevant that is for sustainable, conscious communities and structures. So I would love to know more, because I think it's very relevant to the work we're doing, and just to help unpack that. We were at a meeting the other day, and people were bringing all up different things about what to have in the community, what's important, and I mentioned beauty. This is like, and everybody just had this aha moment, like, yes, and it was almost like they were just, it was something out of left field for them. They just weren't thinking about So I would love you guys to unpack that a little bit for us, to help people to understand how that is really relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As you spoke there, the introductions we can keep to 10 or 15 seconds, but just an image that popped into my mind as you spoke was, there's a thing called a Lagrange point, which, depending on what your view of cosmology is, but it's effectively the balance point between two gravitational bodies, where you're no longer being pulled in one way or another. It's a balance point between them. And depending on the relative gravity of either side, of either polarity, this point will be left or right. Just as an image, it popped into my mind, and I always respect these images when they come, because they can be a bridge, metaphoric, symbolically, to some understanding. So a lot of the people are seeking to escape, and I mean that respectfully, not fearfully, escape the gravity field of what they perceive is the current environmental signaling. And there is a point in that push to escape where you meet the Lagrange point, and there's a perfect balance between the past and the future. There's a perfect balance between that which impulsed you away from something and that which is calling you to something new. And we are inviting people to approach that Lagrange point. And you did it when you said in that meeting, what about beauty? That was because beauty is is this Lagrange point. It's a point whereby you're not being pushed or pulled. You're able to feel the totality without judgment, and then you choose the impulse. So the gravity field, by turning your attention onto this beautiful future, you're no longer being pulled back. It's now a pull towards something, as opposed to a push away from something. So imagery can do that for you, a stimulating perspective, a view, an understanding, a shape, a form. And we're wishing for this to be more organic than something like an arcane mandala, or something that's drenched in cultural associations. So we're looking to create something primally beautiful that goes beyond intellectual description, goes on beyond associative thinking, that's calling to your soul.
So relevant for these times, right, Michael? I mean, even more so that we return back to this knowing. And Zen, I would love to hear from you as well. I just think that was the part in the conversation that, people are in a reactionary mode and returning to the land. And when we don't consider how we're building out, consciously conceiving all aspects of the community in the physical forms. And I love what River had said the other day too, that the architecture goes way beyond the building, just the building of it. And I think that both of you and the work that you're doing really encompasses that as well. So Zana, I'd love to hear from you. I just want to put some images in people's minds too, because your website, and I'll put it in the chat, is so beautiful, and what you're doing, the designs that you're offering. So Zana, maybe you share, and then I'll pop up a few images for people to look at too.
Absolutely. So there's actually nothing bad on getting away from something and seeking for something new. What we invite everybody is to feel into the fact that we are not escaping, we are listening to new tone. So if the old one is not anymore resonating with us, and we hear already new tone, new music, we wish to be in new cymatic pattern, then we are seeking to resonate and with what is around us. So, but what is often happening is that this move is then reduced into surviving. What do we do to be sustainable? What do we do to have our own food, energy, and so on? And somehow is not following the cymatic of the move. So, and the beauty is providing this cymatic, because it's like inner code, which all of us has inside, and our consciousness can then with it dance and develop and unfold and everything. If we support it with the coherent pattern, this cymatic around us, which provides beauty perfectly. So we are inviting people to listen to this new pattern, new tone, new cymatic, and express it in environment. And it does not matter if it's the garden or house or whatever, or a piece of some room, just to listen to this and to make it coherent with your new sound.
You sound
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure River has another question. I want to show some of the images that I pulled off of the website just so people can see. I love just having these to inspire, just plant seeds in our minds as far as really what's
and
possible.
you know, we are now in this point. Everything what is happening because we are on this point where it's not anymore enough what was, because it's the new is already calling on every part. So, and if we speak with Michael for last not you 35, I maybe 25 years about beauty, and we were always a little bit like weirdos in this area. The function is the main thing, and
sustainability.
Right.
No, beauty, because beauty is never unfunctionable, so never unsustainable. This is just natural characteristics, like in the nature. The nature is beautiful and
Fully functional.
Fully functional. So there is going about this point of jump, which we are doing now, that there is no anymore justifying of what was, because it's just falling apart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and we are delighted to show possibilities what is coming. What is
Right.
coming.
Yeah.
And so
it's really. Go on, Michael.
please continue. So we firmly believe and know it to be true within ourselves, and increasingly with the people that are coming to us, that it's not just a flat expression, but the consciousness is obviously getting an opportunity for upgrade here, or at least for a broader expansion of sense of self. And that has a knock-on effect for sure, because our auric personality is desperately trying to find some stability. And beauty provides that, but not as a sustainable static force, as an ever-changing, ever-moving, synchronistic, cymatic dance with our own evolution, with our own sense of what's possible. And so even many of the designs that we've done in the past were of their time. So it's not automatically as presumptive that they will provide the basis for the future. No, they provided in the past, and as they currently sit, an opportunity to expand the mind a little bit, and to say, okay, that was built. I can't imagine how, but it was built. Therefore, something like this is possible. What else could be possible? So we are being approached at the moment by people who are seeking to create community. Some of them are reasonably well funded because of their own crypto dancing. Others have nothing but a bit of land and a beautiful sense of what's there. Regardless, we are helping them to the best of our ability to speak with the land, to speak with the. So, and we mean this in a direct way, because the land is much more, as you guys know, than just some compilation of materials that has some legal association. That this is a multidimensional fractal consciousness expressing all that is in this piece of land. there is a stewardship, there is an understanding, there is an agreement, and that needs a voice, and that voice may decide no, and that's not for the client to decide. That's not for us to define. And so when there is a vision that can be aligned with, and even if the vision isn't very well articulated at this point, if it is an intention, then the land can feed into the authenticity of that, the coherence of that, and then speak a symbolic language to us as holistic designers, bioarchitects, whatever the titles were, whatever the hats we're wearing. And that literally gives voice and shape and form and symbol to what is asking to be felt into collectively. Practically, that presents itself as a sketch design, as a concept that opens up the energy. And far from being just, here's a site plan where you could have the community center here or a collection of houses here. That's just like an affectation of this. This becomes a symbolic door, a portal to something bigger. And by way of example, recently a project, and we don't know what's going to happen, guys. So it's not as if we have any sort of prescription or even protocol. We just open ourselves and individually and together to what's calling. And in that moment, stuff comes. And that stuff must be treated like a very, very fragile, it's ultimately very, very strong, but it's fragile in terms of its communication. And you might speak with like the dragon, for example, recently.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And we have a parallel process happening here, Michael, of what's, that this idea again, that people are even just acquiring or purchasing pieces of land, but we're really trying to stress that the relationship and listening to what the land is saying. And I think this is a very different approach that both of you and River take. And that's such an important part of the conversation.
Yeah. So you described that, when we are approached, we are looking in the holistic a combination of those who wants to live there, the land self, those who initiate it. These are all relationships and dynamics which are combining in one beautiful pattern which we open to. And then it's like when man and woman wants to have a child, and there are some resources and love and all the intentions, and it's creating some form in which the soul of land can incarnate or
So beautiful.
And this is the process is very similar. There is this openness to this process, and just listening this unknown, which is coming through ways which we never can predict, and it's always something else and very unique, but always very magical. But magical is it because we are still too much anchored in the physicality, and everything what is about this is for us magical, but it's actually what we are. So it's the full spectrum. And when the full spectrum is able to come through symbols, through patterns, through geometry, through beautiful messages, and then we are able to put form to it, which is inhabitable, and it's possible to see it on the land how it plays beautifully, and then this is the happiness of each, and
the joy.
And everybody who is involved in this is feels that this is right, because it has this holistic quality. So there's this really like, yes, this is sitting there, and it's us, it's the land, it's actually involved everybody who even don't know that it's involved, because it's like no space, no time, it's
Collective
everything
consciousness.
included, and it's just a fantastic process. And this is what it's absolutely number one priority to do. There is no anymore not anymore enough for new human to just to survive, or even think that it's thriving, because I'm friendly to nature, and I'm able to produce what I need. But we need to move into this holistic connection, that everything is in as it is.
It's interesting because I traveled a lot and like through the Anastasia communities in Russia and different things, as you know, through with Alosha Linov a couple of years ago. And the thing that I found, or we found, and that was being understood, was that a lot of the communities just weren't very functional. And what I was bringing through with Haven Earth was what I call the seed center, which was a structure that would be created on the land of community, which is not necessarily a residence, but more an event space, a place to come together. And the communities that I did see that were functioning well had something like this, and it was they were always beautiful structures, the successful ones. They were always, maybe a beautiful dome like the one in Yalova in Turkey, and Alasla Yurdu outside of Istanbul. Small community, but they built this beautiful structure, like a geodesic dome with ferro cement and this beautiful thatched roof, and just some geometry and positioning on the land. And it was really, you could understand there was a real consciousness brought to what they were doing. And they're like kind of mystics, like Sufi mystics. And so there was real intention, but they could never get the space for themselves, because everybody wanted to book it out. Everybody wanted to come to their community to have their events, to have their thing. So it became this huge economic element in their community, which created an opportunity for them to bring in people that they needed into the community, to bring in the financial side, and many other things which supported that development. And I think it's really critical for people to understand that if you want to have a community that is regenerative and that's going to sustain into the future, you've got to think about something like this. Something
our buddy Dan Winter would refer to such a structure as being a fractal attractor. It's literally attracting energy, but we must be clear that the building itself is not emanating any particular energetic field. It's all about the anchoring of consciousness and the collective agreement and the understanding that this is after 50 or so years together doing this work, that the buildings themselves, you can go in there with whatever technology you might have to measure energy, measure force fields, measure capacitive charge density. You will get the reading that you expect to get, because it's consciousness doing the manipulation of energy.
The observer is defining the observer effect. Result.
So this is the biocentric perspective, that consciousness created, source created consciousness, consciousness created perception, perception gave rise to life, etc., and so on and so forth. So these spaces operate and act as anchors of consciousness. And so when you create a space like the movie Kevin Costner, if you build it, they will come. So you're building a center, a space, a structure, a form that acts as a attractor of energy and information in the form of consciousness, people, and people are called to it, etc., within the field. So what we have learned is that if we have studied and taught and practiced feng shui and Vastu Shastra and biomimicry and all the models and modalities and protocols, and we're not dismissing any of them. We just let them drop away naturally, and give way to beauty. So because really we can only think in terms of the new humanity when we let go of the crutches and perceptions and presuppositions of before. So beauty is the only thing that survives that letting go, because it is neuroaesthetically fundamental, that we are absolutely wired naturally to seek and perceive and appreciate and work with the proportions that nature deems as optimally efficient, as beautifully fractal. And so when we walk into a space initially, our nervous system is scanning the space for danger. And that process takes split second, literally. And once we deem subconsciously and superconsciously deem the space to be safe to step into, then our perception expands a little more. And we walk into a space and we're gauging the parameters. We're not scanning it like some digital computer. We're literally going corner, 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 floor, ceiling, looking good. And once we establish these cortex, the optical cortex, we model it. We enter it with our consciousness. It's modeled within the patterns of our neuronal dancing. And we automatically are set to define what shape is this space. Is it something that we recognize as self? Are the proportionalities of the windows, doors, ceiling, volume, roof slope, are they speaking to us in a language of nature? And if we get a yes, then our whole field of awareness expands to enter that space and find out more. Then we start engaging with objects that take our attention. A beautiful view through a shaped window, some artwork, some alcove, some lighting effect, some natural planting, the sounds. So the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 senses become activated because they've already gone from safety to interest, from interest to focus, from focus to relaxation and embedding. And then the home becomes one with us. Then our consciousness is no longer defining itself by some aura membrane of limit. It's inhabiting the space. And then we can sense and feel the space as being ours, not in any sort of sense of legal ownership, just ours in terms of responsibility, the ability to respond to it, and the desire to hold it sacred, and if at all possible or needed, make it even more beautiful by our presence and by our activities and by our interaction. So that's a bit of blah blah about neuroaesthetic.
We love that kind of blah blah.
Yeah, we like that.
Connected with it because the neuroaesthetic is actually the way how to understand, if it's possible, this inner code, which is in each and every of us, which can use the language of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And beauty understood as an experience more than as some sense of aesthetics we speak about. Yeah. So any interaction with beauty generates the inner condition to transform our hearts into fractal attractors, as you mentioned. This is the real fractal attractor, into which the environment is invited, and in each and every moment.
Yeah.
This is.
So we need to get it the right direction. It's the heart that invites the space into it, not the other way around.
Yeah, which is directly connected with compassion. So the picture outside can fall into the picture inside. This is the fractal empathy. So. So, and this is in our meaning and experience after years of doing and feedbacking, this is the ability to steer reality.
Yeah, we earn the right to steer reality, or the privilege. Maybe not a right. That's too limited in perspective. We gain the privilege of falling into our natural capacity to steer reality when we give beauty a voice through us, and then it's wonderful what happens then. So we have seen those clients who have embraced it, who have managed to transcend the limits of fear-based scarcity thinking, And even the word scarcity, it's a scar city. You know,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
it's a environment that is scarred, damaged, wounded. There is a skin scarring, left over from the membrane of self that was inhabiting a space. So we are seeking to heal. Now we're good friends with Alosha, and we were actually asked by good friends Dan and Valerie, who were putting together last weekend, I think it was, or the weekend before, weekend before last, a online conference about sustainability and thriving in this time and so on and so forth. And we were asked to give a particular sectional talk about building economic bioarchitecture structures, so on. But immediately we felt that Alosha would be better equipped and experienced to speak about that. So we respectfully just stepped back and we said, look, we're there in the background, but give Alosha a voice. And he was fantastic. I don't know if you've caught his 40-minute presentation, but we were impressed because he's just back from doing work in Brazil. And for it personally, it was a very humbling experience because he realized that he himself is nowhere near ready in terms of emotional intelligence and spiritual setting to have anything to do with a community. Yet his entire community architecture focus was assuming he was. And so the architecture in this particular project acted as a impulse for him to realize he himself wasn't ready. Now, this isn't about his process, but this is
how ready you must be to be able to
I think
acknowledge that you are not ready.
Yes. So we were very impressed with that he was acknowledging it.
We gathered a group in the past couple of weeks, and that was part of the conversation too that we're having. I think that's such an important point, actually, of looking at how are we ready to be in community, and what are the limited and expectations and attachments that we have to our ideas of what that looks like. So we just sent out a questionnaire for people, phase 1 of, and the first question is, what is your vision of community? Because I think defining that, and then from that point, looking and doing that self exploration, that self inquiry of where, and when we show up in these spaces, a lot of things becomes evident. And when we've been doing workshops like the hemping workshops, that's hands-on, there's such powerful ways of building community experiences for people coming together to actually do that hands-on creation building process. And there's so much learning and growth there through that. Through that. Just
there's no, it's because it's creating a community is a fractal of creating a relationship. So everything is fractal. If we just say, listen, we've got the apartment, we've got the income, we've got the furniture from IKEA, we're all set. And then you move in, you have a glass of wine to commemorate the day. And then what? Then the relationship begins to unfold in an environment. And you realize the woundedness, you realize the presuppositions, and you multiply that. Like you mentioned, River, you have 4 children. Between us, we have 7 children. So you take that mathematically, that's 7 times 7 relations. That's 49 relationships. Before you think of yourself as a family.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really, yeah.
We have our own.
So it's
right. So you guys
right. And to imagine then going into a community, especially if you're being pushed into it by fear of what was behind you, and then the architecture. Yeah.
We totally do not feel to be totally ready for living in community, especially as we were traveling this summer for a month, and we visited many communities, met fantastic people, and so amazing places that we understood that the first thing is to heal. Before you heal, we all have things to which is hurting us, and there's still somewhere there hidden. Until this is not healed, there will always be this dynamic which so many communities destroyed.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are aware that, but River and I came together, met through our online Brave New Life community. So we've been hosting community conversations with Sovereign around syntropic human ecology and feeling-based relating. And so we've been having those conversations for over a year, twice a week, with people all over the world.
Creating community from the inside
out. So we met just a year ago online and then in person in February through that dialogue of looking at the human damage and how do we start working on that interior design
And
of the community and a commitment. And I think that too, of that personal recognition of and honesty of where we're at. I love that you're saying, looking at all these communities and whether we're ready for it. And one of the things that keeps coming up in all of our conversations is, and we'll be speaking at the Greater Reset with Derek Bros and all of them in Mexico the end of January. And there's a lot around exit strategies and what they're doing. Well, and we'll actually be doing a little hemp demo, River will be, but the piece with that is, one of the things that everybody's looking at is people committed to their personal process, that it's not just like kumbaya, we're going to move to the land and everything's going to be great, or even the fact that you have a piece of land so you're all set, which is, we're in Texas and there's a lot of that where people are just, I got my 16 acres, I'm good, it's just this disconnection. So how do we're really focused, and we were talking about what is differentiating what we're doing at Haven Earth is similar to what you all are doing, is bringing in that element of beauty, restructuring around ownership. And you had talked about that, Michael, like we don't own the land, and really changing that conversation, but also just the idea of how we're bringing in the economics to these communities so that they're more like villages. That it's, for me, we've been talking a lot, the community in a sense, when we think of it, intentional community, gated communities, like it's limiting.
It's kind of fear-based.
In that scarcity. And I love how you use that, like, broke down scarcity, but we're really about building the new villages, like the new communities in the sense of how it would naturally syntropically unfold. And so I think bringing that into the conversation is really what we're really, trying to do right now, rather than just.
Well, I think one thing that came up is, we're talking about healing, and, obviously that ties into the architecture that speaks to energetics, that speaks to the consciousness, and intention in terms of the cosmos, and in terms of bigger energetic forces at play, which really ties into. We did the Hempel. We're doing these Hempel projects, but we did one in San Diego, which was we had our partners who are Vastu designers. Abby, he's from a lineage of temple builders in India, and I know that you would have a lot to communicate with them guys. And they brought the elements of the sacred geometry of the land, and the birth charts of the clients and all these things. But what he was saying is that what's really important is the frequency of the materials that they use. So hemp is a material to build with, has a very high frequency, and is a great conductor, pure conductor of energy. And I just wanted to bring that up, maybe as a last question, because we're coming to the close, is just how, because I know that you guys are getting into hemp too. I think we started diving in at a similar time, feeling something about this material that's not only about ecology and all the amazing things that the plant does to regenerate the soil and all that, but it's something else, that it's bringing rise to a new kind of architecture that has a different feeling, and it's formable. We can form it into different shapes. And I was always intrigued by the temples of beauty, if I'm terming it right. Maybe you could just talk a little bit about why you feel hemp's relevant, and what you're doing in that respect.
You guys don't need to hear about what hemp can do practically and energetically and so on. Being there, done that. So certainly it's as a materiality, once you take it out of the ground, you're dealing only with a materiality. So again, we shouldn't be limited by language or descriptions, but when someone says that the frequency of the hemp is very high, I'm going out on a limb here. I would say that once it's out of the ground, it's a building material. When it's in the ground, it's connected with source. It's very much part of an ecosystem, but it still carries the memory in its cellular formulation, and consciousness can seep into that materiality, which is by definition now inert. But we still recognize it. It's like visiting an ancient structure and knowing and feeling what used to happen there, and saying there's a solemn sacredness in this place. It's not actively being used for ritual. It's no longer functional in terms of protocols or movements, but you can feel the memory. So the memory of hemp is very old and very multidimensional. And so when we neuroaesthetically build it, there's a desire to rub up against it. There's a desire to reach out and touch it. There is a sensory impulse to remember, to bring the membership back into the connection of the materiality. So that's a very subtle point, and it could just be a dance with language. But we believe that it's if you go along and measure the frequency of hemp somehow as a building material, you're not actually measuring the frequency of hemp as a building material. You're measuring your connection,
your connection to it, yeah,
your conscious connection. And but if it helps to describe it that way, if some clients need to know that this is a good decision because the energy of hemp is high, then fine. It doesn't matter ultimately, because everything is consciousness. So, but we would just not, because the moment you say hemp is high, then you say
wood is low.
Then wood is low, and hardwood is higher than softwood, and then copper is not as good as platinum, and then you're into the realm of relativity. And by way of example, we were involved some 20 years ago, like I was before we met, with a cancer support clinic in Ireland, and we based it on the geometry of DNA as if you view it from above, effectively a decagon. And the people that started working there and supporting people and families who had been touched by cancer, they would turn up on the weekends, even though they weren't being paid, just to be there. Now, that sounds wonderful and great success, but the building was made out of steel and concrete. It wasn't our choice. It was the engineer and project manager, it doesn't matter. But the building was, and the small site that it inhabited was defined by a high tension electrical cable, a busy road, and some underground hoo-ha. So the point is...
But beautiful building.
The building was beautiful, but literally it was in a worse, inverted commas, worse energetic environment.
Location.
Yeah, and built with the worst possible energetic. Yet everyone that was there absolutely loved it, because they never read the memo that this was bad architecture. So that's where we began to realize that the consciousness just says, good Lord is at the time. If you start speaking about negative energy and stuff, it moves on. It's not interested in that conversation. That's the conversation of the egoic mind. That's the conversation of the left brain. And that's the realm of the first two letters of the alphabet of sacred space.
So practically, our experiences showed that there's no way that somebody, if he use some materiality which is described as a very good ecological clean material, and a person which use practical materiality. I am not speaking about the chemicals which are poisoning organism, but like metal or things which are considered to be energetically not so preferable. We didn't have, both of us, experiences that it was somehow on one side damaging the inhabitants, on another side helping them or healing them. So it's more about how we feel. So if Michael speaks about the relationship to this materiality. So we have clients which love combination of metal and glass, and they are so happy to have such a materiality around them, and it's so coherent with them that they are absolutely evolving their lives there fantastically. And then we have another clients which did everything right. Yeah, so only
Eco
the best
everything, yeah.
eco materialities, and they get sick, divorced, catastrophic scenarios in
Too much
family, and
human damage on that one, right?
so you know, so that just really like we must again and again explain that it's about us. It's here. So the beauty is providing just a clean space for your consciousness to unfold. So, or better to say, is not giving any obstacles to your life.
Right. I love that. I think that's so relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so relevant. I mean, I think you know.
Back to hemp. Sorry, I wanted just to finish with the hemp because we were like a few years really after new materialities, new technologies, what is possible, and we went through all fantastic technologies which are now developed, and our personal experiences that we have fantastic relationship to hemp. So this is our setting. Yeah. So I can speak about my own personal relationship to it, and I can speak about how is it amazing to me how many good characteristics it's bringing with itself, the hemp materiality. And so, but as if we would speak like we cannot generalize it that it's the materiality for everybody, but it has so many good things that
you'd have to have a very good reason not to use it, you know.
Right.
Well, I definitely think hemp's bringing a new level of consciousness to design and architecture for sure. Just as to what a space can be, a healthful space.
The rise of consciousness is giving hemp an opportunity to be a language for this architecture. You know,
we were also experimenting with the technologies which where we can let our homes grow.
Brings us in relation with agriculture again. It brings us back in relationship with nature. I think this. I think we're going to have to come back and do another whole live stream with you guys, diving deeper into this, because we could keep going, and I know we kind of got to keep it to an hour. But we had a lot of amazing comments for people, a lot of appreciation for what you're bringing to the table and how relevant it is. And it's not really a conversation that's been had. So I definitely think we can unpack this even more.
Absolutely.
Maybe in the new year we'll do like a new year follow-up.
For sure. I put remembering that again, and I know you guys are working on the other website that's emerging. I would definitely encourage people to check it out. But I think this is a beginning conversation, and so much of what that's coming through. And I do think this, when we talk about the cannabis consciousness, River had a download that this is coming through at a time when humanity is ready for this, and we're ready for this next level of consciousness to come through the structure of our own bodies and the structures of what we're creating. So such an important conversation. It was really wonderful to meet both of you finally. And for all of our listeners, I put the link in there, and this will be up on Earth Heroes, our partners there, and on Haven Earth. YouTube, and I'll actually put our website in here. I didn't put ours in, but if you're in the States and in this area side of the world, definitely check out and become a member of Haven Earth, and that website, havenearth.biz. So appreciate
So
everyone tuning in.
We give you
Michael,
our
yeah.
we're going to give you our YouTube as well.
Oh,
We have
sure.
there a few videos with themes which we are speaking about as key
So
points.
what's the YouTube channel?
Yeah, we're just grabbing it now. We're going to give you the link in the chat.
I don't know if I can see it in the chat here. If you can put
We're
it
just
in.
putting it in.
But this will be going up on our YouTube channel. So in the comments, we can put all this stuff, Michael. So maybe you can just send us
Is
any
it-
links
Oh,
you want us to add, any
It's
links
in-
you want us to add to YouTube.
Comments.
Yeah. So it's in the chat there now.
okay. I might, if
No.
I don't know if people can see it, but if not, I will definitely add it in. But
We'll put it in there now. We'll just see it. The new comments.
Yeah.
We can't.
I
No.
appreciate you guys spontaneously hopping on, Xana. You didn't
Yeah.
know what we were doing. So it was just great to have this really organic conversation with both of you. And I know that you had just reunited and haven't had much time together. So thank you so much for jumping in and just conversating with us. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Say hi to everyone, and
right.
we remain in contact.
Yes,
For
take
sure.
care.
So
Bye,
good to see you
everyone.
guys again.
Thank you.